For decades, institutional faith borrowed heavily from the corporate playbook. Spirituality became a daily performance review. You wake up, read the mandatory 3 chapters, log 20 minutes of prayer, and check the boxes. We built sprawling campuses and poured millions into stadium-level production, promising a deeply connected community. But standing shoulder to shoulder with thousands of people in a dimly lit auditorium often leaves individuals feeling invisible. The psychological toll of that performance is steep. When the primary message is that you aren't serving enough, volunteering enough, or believing hard enough, the body's nervous system stays locked in a state of chronic stress. People are simply burning out. This graph tracks the rise of the spiritual but not religious demographic over the last decade. Look at that sharp upward trajectory. Right here, around the middle of the last decade, is where the lines cross. These individuals still hold deep spiritual beliefs. They are just actively rejecting the heavy bureaucracy of the institution. The rising number of people seeking independent spirituality permanently overtakes the declining attendance metrics of traditional weekend services. The exodus represents a deliberate, systematic dismantling of the noise. People are unplugging the fog machines and stepping away from the crowds to find a rhythm they can actually sustain. After years in windowless, air-conditioned auditoriums, the sensory deprivation of the modern church has driven people toward tangible, unscripted reality. The hiking trail has become the new cathedral because it offers the one thing the stage cannot, a sense of unfiltered presence. Look at the sheer scale of this sequoia. Standing at the base of an ancient forest forces a shift in perspective. There is a quiet peace in feeling small. An old-growth ecosystem doesn't hustle for worth. It just stands rooted and reaches for the light, offering a model for spiritual pacing that human effort can't replicate. That slow pacing extends directly into the home. We are learning to find the divine in the absolute ordinary. Washing the dishes or making the bed is no longer an irritating chore to rush through, but a mindful liturgy, a quiet practice of gratitude. By moving the sacred out to the forest and into the kitchen, the believer reclaims their autonomy. Spiritual authority transfers out of the centralized building and takes root directly in your daily environment. The way people interact with ancient texts has moved from high-volume checklists to a slower, more deliberate cadence. The goal is no longer to speed read 4 chapters a day to earn a badge. Instead, seekers are returning to ancient reading practices, taking a single verse or phrase and letting it marinate in the mind for the entire day. This diagram contrasts a dysregulated, hyper-aroused nervous system on the left with a smooth, calm, parasympathetic wave on the right. You cannot maintain a peaceful soul while your body is agitated. Engaging in somatic practices, intentional breathing and stretching, is now viewed as the essential first step to quieting the mind. The old establishment often pushed a narrative that anxiety was simply a failure to trust God. That idea is being thrown in the trash. Today, sitting on a therapist's couch and untangling your mind is recognized as a deeply spiritual, holy practice. Willpower and rigid discipline are not enough to sustain a healthy inner life. True spiritual peace requires a solid bedrock of psychological and physical regulation. Perhaps the most visible change is the structural downsizing of community. The focus has moved from an auditorium packed with 3,000 strangers to 5 friends sitting around a rustic dining room table. The rules of engagement at these tables are strict but simple. You show up, pass a plate of homemade food, and practice hospitality. When someone shares a struggle, the rest of the group is there only to listen. The urge to correct or fix each other is completely suspended. Removing the rigid curriculum allows a much wider variety of people to pull up a chair. These micro-communities are intentionally messy, blending individuals from different backgrounds and lifestyles over a shared loaf of bread. The metric for a healthy group has shifted. A deep sense of belonging and unconditional inclusion has replaced strict doctrinal conformity as the new baseline. Walking away from the institution rarely goes unchallenged. Traditional leaders often look at this quiet exodus and accuse individuals of rebellion, calling the pursuit of peace nothing more than self-care disguised as religion. The defense against that criticism is practical. Look at the results. If stepping away from the megachurch produces a person who is significantly more patient, empathetic, and dedicated to peacemaking, then the practice is working. Modern deconstruction focuses on identifying and pulling down the rotting drywall to reveal the original, solid timber beneath. The goal is to preserve the foundation by removing the ideology that has become toxic to it. This shift alters how the next generation is raised. Parents are refusing to use the divine as a boogeyman to enforce good behavior. Instead of fear-based dogma, they are teaching their children curiosity, giving them the freedom to ask hard questions without the threat of punishment. You have a choice. You can keep carrying the heavy weight of someone else's religious expectations, or you can drop it. When you let go of the spectacle, you quickly realize you don't need a massive building to find peace. Your own quiet mind is already the sanctuary.